Here we are on Jam Session. It's Jean-Jacques Taylor. It's Matt McLaren rolling along with you. Coming up in 20 minutes, another high-profile running back in the news. But right now, it is time for a weekly stop down in the Peep Show. And this week, that leads us to a show that you can check out on Amazon Prime. It was just picked up for season 2. It is filmed in Dallas from a local dude who grew up in the area, and we welcome him in. Now it's a surprise guest, the creator and director of the series Washed. It is Jared Couch. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. How are y'all? Thank y'all for having me on.
Sure. Well, for those who haven't seen Washed, why don't you give them a quick breakdown of what it is and just how successful season 1 was?
Yeah, so Washed is short for washed up. And I always put it like this. Growing up as a kid, you have these ideas of where you're going to be at 30. You know, you'll be on your second NBA contract. Right. You might be married to Beyonce. But you wake up at 30, and for a lot of us, me included, or me specifically, you weren't there. And so that's the whole premise behind the idea is kind of this internal conflict when you reach your 30s and how you deal with that. And LeBron James actually made the term really popular recently by calling himself the washed king. And I think it's apropos because, you know, he's been in the league for a long time, yet he's still the best player in the world. So when we talk about season 2 of the show, which is dropping tomorrow, our characters, our ensemble cast, they feel their dreams slipping away, and they're too old to just be a dreamer, yet they're still young enough to realize them. So that's kind of the show in a nutshell.
Man, that is, I think all of us deal with that. Like every single person that's alive deals with that at some point.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's the internal conflict, and it's shown from like multiple perspectives: the female perspective, the male perspective. In season 1, we were a single character lead. In season 2, a lot of folks loved our supporting characters a lot, so we made it an ensemble, and we explored, you know, different vantage points, and it's something that isn't explored a lot. That internal conflict, you always see the external situations, and it's shot right here in Dallas, which, you know, I'm from the Wilmer-Hutchins area. We used over 30 locations in Dallas, and there was 150 people, over 150 people on the cast and crew. So it's something we're really proud of for the city.
We're talking to Jared Couch, writer, director, producer, chief bottle washer of the Amazon Prime series Washed, right here on Jam Session on 103.3 FM. I think it's interesting, Jared, to tell people how you got there, because when I met Jared, he had some low-level job at ESPN, and I ran into him, or he ran into me in the cafeteria when I was up there, no humble brag, shooting an episode of First Take.
Yeah, so we were in the lunch line, and I was probably waiting for those famous buffalo chicken wraps that they served on Tuesdays. And I was like, yo, that's Jean-Jacques Taylor. I always disagree with his articles on the Cowboys. No.
I remember my fan base.
I remembered him, and I recognized him, and I was like, let me go introduce him, because I'm not afraid to walk up to anybody, email anybody, or call anybody. And we had lunch, I think, a couple times, and we stayed in contact through social media. And then I moved back to Dallas, and I was working for the Rangers, and I saw him again, like going to the press box, and you know, we've been staying in contact ever since. So yeah, it's been quite the road from ESPN, the Longhorn Network, the Rangers, and now independent filmmaking. It's helped a lot along the way.
How do you start the process of, like, from what you were just describing into, okay, so I'm going to go from doing those types of things, and now I'm going to create and make a television show?
Yeah, so I was working for the Rangers, but I was also getting an MBA at night in grad school. And I left the Rangers to get an MBA job. And after a year, I wasn't really feeling it. I really loved creating content. And I had joined a startup, and they had changed my position. So I found myself in a skyrise office in downtown Dallas to the unemployment line. And so I was like, you know, my passion was creating, and I had wrote scripts in college. So I said, all right, well, let me write the pilot for this. Let me get the team together. And in season 1, it's independent filmmaking truly is just scrapping it together, begging, borrow, and bartering. And so we put it together, and we shot 8 episodes, and there was a lot of great response from that. We won Dell's Small But Mighty Award. We were nominated for Best Comedy at the Indie Series Awards, and we were in festivals from coast to coast. But then in season 2, like, the community in Dallas rallied around us, supported our crowdfunding. We got sponsors. Reebok is one of our sponsors. They gave us clothes. DFW Vapor put money behind us, and we really elevated the product. So it's, what I learned at ESPN, that was like going to grad school for creating television. But I take that and I put it toward independent filmmaking. Now, I still had to learn a lot as far as the process goes, but the skills are transferable.
And what do you say? And we're talking to Jared Couch. He's produced and writes and directs Watch, the Amazon Prime series that drops tomorrow, I believe. What is it that you learned from ESPN that you took into this?
Oh man, I used to have this boss, Jay Sullivan, in marketing, and I was writing and producing. I was probably like 22, and I was doing commercials for like the NBA Finals and for T-Mobile, like co-promotions. And Jay Sullivan, I thought he was crazy because he would come into my editing room and he would scrutinize every frame and every pixel for the commercials. And I'm like, man, that doesn't matter. And we would debate over just the smallest words in a script. And I was like, man, this guy's crazy. And now I'm the crazy one because every single detail matters, because nobody sees the details you cover. They see the ones you miss. So that was the biggest thing, is like just being very detail oriented, and also the marketing aspect. ESPN does a great job of repurposing content and just getting it out there to the masses and making sure people see it.
So the cast that you've put together, is it local Dallas actors? Is it people that you're able to pull from parts of the country? Is it friends that you used when you first started? How did you build the cast together?
So season 1, it was like, can you speak? Are you breathing? Do you have a pulse? It was a lot of
one, Matt.
I could have, yeah.
I heard you were an actor. We definitely could have had you in season 1 and season 2. I wish I'd have known that.
Man, come on.
But yeah, so season 1 was a lot of first-time actors. But one thing that I learned from the Rangers and ESPN is when I was writing commercials for athletes, it was make them play themselves. Don't ever make them act. So in season 1, I was casting and writing for that person's personality. Now in season 2, we created an ensemble and we added 4 reoccurring characters, and we had about 150 actors audition for 4 roles in Dallas. And the 4 people that we added are absolute stars in the making. Dennis Raveneux, Brittany Blewett, Jonathan Ekbuna, and Draper Winston are the 4 people we added in season 2. They're just stars. And then we added a new director of photography, Jamario Washington. He transformed the show. Like, it's Wash season 2, but it's more 2.0. And then you see like Byron Hardy as Eric step to the lead of the show, as well as Ashley Lee and Nadira Shakir. So we had a mix of people that have acted before and then first timers. And I think that was an amazing thing because you discovered new talent and fresh, authentic voices.
We're talking to Jared Couch, director, producer, writer of the Amazon Prime series Watched, which drops tomorrow. I always like to ask people this, man, because I did it. I know Matt's done it. What's it feel like when you're chasing a dream, and a lot of times nobody can see it but you?
It can be exhausting. It can be exhilarating. Like today, we just had 2 billboards go up on I-20 and I-30, and it just makes my heart pound with excitement and joy. But then there's days when, you have to work in the dark and nobody sees what you're doing. And, for me, it's a cliche and athletes say it all the time, but I really learned it's about showing up every day. And those days that when you don't have the energy or the enthusiasm, find something you can do to push the ball forward. But it's, it takes a lot of determination and consistency, because it's easy to say, you know what, nobody's watching, I can just give up at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a really, the perspective that you give there is so much truth to that, where it's even in times, and I'm sure that you went through this, it's, how am I going to accomplish it? And you have this idea that that you want to achieve, and then it becomes, okay, well, how do I get to that point? And that, like you talked about, the making of the series, I think is a great example of that, of, all right, well, I'm going to use people I know and anybody who can walk or talk or breathe. And then, independent filmmaking, as you pointed out, is such a different beast than I think people understand of what filmmaking is, where you're truly asking anybody, you know, can you invest? Can I get some help? Can you do this? What are you able to do? And you were able to put that all together to, I guess, come to the visualization of where that dream is still probably going today.
Yeah, no, it's still, and, you know, a lot of times, you know, what we do is, you know, people are like, oh, man, your marketing looks so great. It's, you know, when you're an independent filmmaker, if you don't know it, you have to learn it. And if you can't learn it, then you have to beg somebody to jump on the team and provide, you know, a skill set that you don't have. I mean, I learned Photoshop to learn how to make graphics, right? So it's just about being very resourceful and push through any obstacle, because you're going to meet many no's, but there's many pathways to yes. You just got to get in that door.
And we got one last question for you, Jared. What does the filmmaker watch? Because this is called Peep Show, and so people are going to be watching Washed. But what do you watch?
I think one of my favorite, Atlanta on FX. I love the show. Donald Glover is an amazing creative. The Wire is my favorite show of all time. I've watched it at least 5 times. I think that was so far ahead of its time. And then favorite movie of all time is Shawshank Redemption.
See, that's
yes,
my boy.
There it is.
That's why you can come back.
That's why. If you said another movie, would you be like, oh, so much for this guy?
All right, real quick, man. Which season of The Wire?
Which season of The Wire? It's the one with the kids. So is that 4?
That's the last one.
Well, it's obviously not the one at the docks.
No. That one right there will make you almost give up.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, you're right. It was season 4 because season 5 was the newspaper. Season 4 was about the kids.
I agree with you. I always wondered why they did that. I've still, like, when I go back and watch them, like, really?
Yeah, no, but it's necessary for the ecosystem. And I've read the books on The Wire, and they tell you why they did it. But I will say the reason 4 hit so hard is because I grew up in just south of Dallas, Wilmer Hutchins, and you see these kids and you love them and you fall in love with them, and then you see that it's all cyclical in the environment. And I saw that growing up in South Dallas. Like it's a cycle that you want to break. But The Wire, The Wire is amazing.
It is. All right. Jared Couch, man, we appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on. And I know everybody looking forward to Wash dropping tomorrow on Amazon Prime.
Thank y'all so much.
All right, there he is. That's a cool chat, man. You always like to see. I love talking to people who pursue just that dream, because it's so hard. Like he said, you're doing stuff that a lot of the times people are like, what are you doing? And the premise of this series is something we all do. And, you know, I've had people in my past like, man, you got to get a new dream. I'm like, this is what I do. I don't know what to tell you. Right. And I've just...
That's why I asked the question, because if you have never chased a dream, like if you just got a 9 to 5, and that's cool. There's no knock on 9 to 5s. If you just got a basic 9 to 5 and you never chased a dream, then it is hard for you to connect with people who are chasing a dream.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and you know, that path that he put together to get to where Amazon Prime picks up his show and is now about to release season 2, you know, reminds me of something that I came up with years ago where, you know, I remind myself of this sometimes, and maybe it applies to you and maybe it doesn't, the general you, but, you know, there are people who talk about doing things, and then there are people who do things other people talk about.
Right. No,
and
I mean, that's the way it is.
That's what it is, man. And he went that path, and it's cool. Very nice. That was cool. I enjoyed that. He's Jean-Jacques Taylor. I'm Matt McLaren. Coming up next as we continue here with you on Jam Session, another high-profile running back in the news today. We'll give you the details next. ESPN Radio 103.3 FM.